So I'll tell you a little bit about my current diet. And for now, I mostly eat, I guess, what you could call a barbarian diet. And that's high protein, high fat, low in refined carbs, but I eat lots of fruits and vegetables. And when I say vegetables, I mostly mean leafy vegetables because these are the ones that tend to have less sugar than a bell pepper, for instance, right? So let's break it down. The foods that I eat most often in my diet is quite monotonous. I eat many of the same foods virtually every single day. We have lettuce wrap burgers. So, and I use an air fryer because well, actually, I'll tell you this quick story. I used to start, about last year, last March, I started making burgers on the stove, right? And I was doing air fryer or lettuce wrap burgers. So, I wouldn't use a bread bun, I'd use lettuce in place of the bun, right? But I was making them on the stove, and for whatever reason, the when I would do it on the stove, I guess some of the grease would rise and then sink back down to the floor. So the floor would get kind of greasy, which is it's gross, but it's also apparently depending on who you are, uh, a danger hazard, right? A safety hazard. And my mom would always say you need to do a better job cleaning up, right? And I would try, I really would. But one day, unfortunately, she actually slipped. She slipped on the ground because of the grease. So and then after that, my dad the next day made me. I wanted to go out. It was a Friday night. One of my friends was hosting a party, but he made me clean the kitchen, mop the entire floor, and he also, I guess, he got me to sweep the kitchen, mop the entire floor. But I had to mop it twice, which took 90 minutes. I had to fill up all the buckets and water, all this stuff, right? And I said I don't want to repeat of this experience. Um, and also, of course, I didn't want my mom to trip again. So my mom actually bought an air fryer, and it's just much quicker, much easier to clean. Doesn't make as much of a mess, and it's actually much healthier. You don't have to use oil on the pan or butter or anything. But anyways, so lettuce wrap burgers, normally around four a day, and each with cheese, tomato. I stopped doing onions just because I think I don't like how they make my breath smell, and it's hard even after you brush your teeth. It's hard to actually get rid of the smell. But each burger has roughly about 550 calories, right? Because the cheese, I had medium cheddar cheese, about 100 calories there. I have four of those a day when I'm having that, right? I could also have then eggs are kind of the next food that I eat also every day. Six eggs. And I actually hated eggs for the longest time. I didn't have a single egg for 11 years straight, from age 4 to 15 or 16, because that's okay. I'm not the best at math, but the point is, I hated them. But then, I tried a fried egg, at 15. I said, okay, I can't do this. But then I realized, okay, listen, eggs actually are a great source of protein. So I started boiling them, and I found, okay, the taste is quite bland. I can do it, but they would take forever to eat. I know there's one time I ate 18 at once, so that took forever, and it wasn't a fun time. My stomach kind of felt full, whatever, right? But each egg has only about 60 calories, 65 calories, right? But they're a great source of protein. One boiled egg has, about 6 grams of protein, if not slightly more. So I eat a lot of eggs. But one day in January of this year, 2025, I boiled an egg from a new box of eggs my mom had got. I'd never seen this brand before, and it just tasted weird. I didn't like the taste. It almost tasted like a battery, and I'm not sure why I know what a battery tastes like, but still, that's how it tasted. So I said, I'm not going to eat these eggs, but I also don't want to throw them out. And I've seen movies like Rocky, I've seen other bodybuilders. It always looks pretty cool when they down a raw egg, so I'd like to try that for myself just to know what it's like, right? So I took one of the eggs, I cracked it open, put it in a cup. I didn't mix it around or anything. Maybe I did mix it up. I just did mix the yolk and the white. I can't remember. I tried it, and it was actually a much better experience than I anticipated because it basically tastes like nothing. It tasted less like an egg than even a boiled egg. So I said, oh, I can actually get behind this. And then since then, I've just started doing raw eggs. It saves so much time. Boiled eggs take forever to eat, to make, to eat, to peel. They kind of burn your hands if you go and they're too warm. So you don't have to deal with any of that. And yeah, sure, I know some of you are gonna say like my parents, but there's a risk of salmonella. The risk in the U.S. is about 1 in 10,000. If you're in other places, Japan, Europe, it's about 1 in 20,000. So it's probably riskier to go out on the street and drive a car, especially if you're a new driver like me. I got my license in January, than it is to eat an egg. And so far, I've probably had hundreds since then. Not quite thousands, but hundreds, and I haven't gotten salmonella. I'm chilling. So, I think but of course, that's something to keep in mind. If you're not willing to take that risk, and especially if you want to avoid the risk entirely, go with pasteurized eggs. They don't have salmonella. Um, Blueberries and strawberries. I love blueberries and strawberries. They're great antioxidants.